Wearing Pan Jinlian in a month. Online waiting, urgent. Introduction. www.zhaoshuyuan.com. A countdown appeared in Pan Shui's mind, telling her that she would cross the Song dynasty in a month and become the famous Pan Jinlian in history. So she started posting and seeking help. Jimei from Jihu and Zaya Hongshu are all offering suggestions. From childhood to planting techniques such as potatoes, corn, and sorghum, and then to machinery, electronics, textbooks, steelmaking, and weapons. https://www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Chapter 1. Countdown to Crossing, Difficulty Hell Level. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, ding, the system has been successfully unlocked, and the adapted host has been selected. Pan Shui. The countdown to the travel plan has officially begun, 29 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. 29 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 58 seconds. In the early morning, Pan Shui sat on the messy bed. Listening to the ringing sound in my mind, I felt a bit disorganized. What? Time travel. I'm getting angry, I'll sleep a little longer. Pan Shui lay on the bed, burying her head under the pillow. But even if she blocks her ears, the countdown of the prompt sound is still incredibly clear. After struggling for a long time without falling asleep, Pan Shui finally gave up. 29 days, 23 hours, 31 minutes, 27 seconds. What is the situation? Pan Shui took a few sips of ice water and pinched her thigh hard. After repeated confirmation, make sure that you are not dreaming or experiencing hallucinations. Am I going through time? As an old bookworm with countless readings, Pan Shui is not unfamiliar with crossing this kind of bridge. Although it is unbelievable that this happened to oneself, it is not unacceptable. Just their travels are full of pain and joy. If hit by a car or struck by lightning, it will instantly pass through. Why did I still have a countdown and give myself 1 month's time? Absolutely, it's too appetizing, okay. For a moment, Pan Shui was so excited that she couldn't even brush her teeth. She is a standard social animal, working as an unknown clerk in the company. Being angry with superiors in the company and engaging in internal conflicts with colleagues. In terms of career, if you want to make progress, it will probably be enough for a lifetime. In terms of family, my parents are old and live in their hometown, and have not been in contact for many years. In terms of love, although my mouth is full of yellow tones on weekdays, I am purely a talkative contestant. Until now, the mother and fetus have not even touched a boy's hand. Pan Shui leads a dull and boring life every day, and the only adjustment is to read novels in her spare time. Nowadays, I am about to become a traveler like those protagonists. It's like a dream shining into reality. I am full of anticipation for time travel, and even the cold prompt sound of the system has become incredibly pleasing to the ear. Pan Shui has started to fantasize. Which dynasty will I travel to? She became a princess of a certain royal family, receiving the favor of her father, emperor, and brothers. Or become the daughter of a wealthy family, and let a group of handsome guys compete for my heart, causing a lot of trouble and bloodshed. Or perhaps becoming an empress, stepping on the corpses of enemies and dominating the world, seems not bad. Pan Shui was daydreaming when she suddenly noticed a small character floating in her mind. The traversal information has been selected for the host. May I ask if the host wants to view it? Oh, the efficiency is quite fast. Pan Shui suddenly felt a sense of joy and eagerly selected the yes option. However, after reading this travel information, she was instantly dumbfounded. Crossing time and space. The first year of Xuanhe in the Northern Song dynasty, time-traveling identity. Zhang Mansion made Pan Jinlian, survival difficulty. Hell level, the system gifts the host a small mind warehouse that can store items in the sea of consciousness and carry them through time. Note: the warehouse area is 100 cubic meters and cannot carry live objects, wishing the host a wonderful and unforgettable journey in advance. Pan Shuer. Do Te has crossed into Pan Jinlian, can it still be beautiful? Well, unforgettable is probably quite unforgettable. In a flash, Pan Shuer's just beautiful fantasy turned into a bubble like a foam. When I was in school, water margin was one of the mandatory readings set by the school. And she secretly bought and watched The Plum in the Golden Vase during her ignorant adolescence. She still has some understanding of the dark history of the Northern Song dynasty. The hellish level prompt given by the system is absolutely not an exaggeration. The first year of Xuanhe was considered the last peaceful time of the Northern Song dynasty. Before long, Song Jiang and Fang La will rebel one after another. Hunger is everywhere, tigers and wolves run rampant, people are displaced, and they are struggling to make a living. In a few years, the Song and Jin dynasties will officially go to war. The darkest shame of Jinkang in the history of the Han people followed suit. Emperor Huizong of Song, Zhao Ji, was taken captive to the Five Kingdoms city and granted the title of Duke of Hun. The despicable emperor, Wanyan Go, ascended to power and forged an eternal injustice. However, it's not without benefits. Pan Shuer shook her head and muttered to herself. The Northern Song dynasty was one of the most developed dynasties in history. Bianjing, where Qinghe County is located, was also the most developed financial center of the Song dynasty. After I travel through the past, I can buy many beautiful clothes and rouge from that era. But we need to have silver first. The system prompts that she is a maid of the Zhang family. On this timeline, Pan Jinlian has just been sold from Wang Zhaoxuan's house to Zhang Dahu. This big shot is not a good thing. I have been coveting her beautiful face, wanting to tarnish her innocence. But unfortunately, Pan Jinlian vowed to die and often ran to his wife's place to cry and complain. Mrs. Zhang is a mother tiger again, she can't afford to provoke anyone. Under the anger and embarrassment of Zhang Dahu, he directly gave her to the famous ugly 8 monsters in Qinghe County and went to find Wu Daolong at the Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Causing her to suffer from the teasing of mischievous people and suffering daily grievances. In the end, she couldn't resist loneliness and had an affair with a high-ranking official from Ximen, resulting in a tragic death at the hands of Wu Song. Since I have traveled through the past, I will definitely not get along with Ximen Qing, nor can I let Mr. Zhang give me to the kind of cowardly Wu Daolong. Pan Shuer calmed down and began to self-analyze. Compared to the plague god Wu Song, it must be easier to deal with the old pervert Zhang Dahu. From my god's perspective, combined with the system's gifted warehouse, solving the crisis in the mansion should not be a problem. The difficult thing is, how can we survive in that cannibalistic era? The rebellion of Fangla in Songjiang was so grand. The court's excessive collection of taxes has already caused unbearable suffering to the people. Later, the Jin people went south, turning Bianjing into a mortal hell. In that era, human life was like worthless grass. Women are even more miserable. Pan Shuer doesn't want her to become like a Han Chinese woman in a TV drama. Being humiliated and raped by the Jin people on the street, imprisoned in a small black room, becoming a breeding tool for those barbarians. The prompt sound in her mind continues, indicating that she has no choice. Pan Shuer racked her brains, unable to come up with a suitable solution. She hesitated repeatedly and chose to open the most trusted little red book. Jimei, when I woke up this morning, I was suddenly bound by the system to traverse. I still have 1 month left, and I will travel back to the era of Emperor Huizong of the Northern Song dynasty to become Pan Jinlian, who has not yet married Wu Daolong. May I ask Jimei, how can I survive in that world and become the Dong Mingzhu of the Northern Song dynasty? Chapter 2. Jimei, Seeking Help. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Pan Shuer hesitated several times before choosing to seek help on social media. Firstly, no matter what, 1 month from now, one will have to travel through time. This matter doesn't need to be kept as a secret, but instead it makes her feel uncomfortable inside. Secondly, the elements on Xiangyun are extremely complex, and the posts are imaginative. There are countless nonsensical topics like this. Even if one's every word is true, probably not many people take it seriously. As expected by Pan Shuer, as soon as the post was posted, it received a massive number of replies. Jimei 666, did the system give you a golden finger to sign in and give you top-notch equipment? Pan Jinlian. We suggest that Jimei reopen directly. If we're dreaming, why don't we grow up a bit? Isn't it okay to just be Emperor Huizong of song? Upstairs, cerebral palsy. Do you also want to be captured by the Jurchen Tartars and raised as livestock in the Five Kingdoms city? Then I will travel directly through the Golden Emperor. Looking at these non-nutritious jokes, Pan Shuer felt a bit helpless. But as the popularity of the post was exposed, it gradually received some valuable responses. If Jimei wants to become Dong Mingzhu, she must first have money, right? I wonder if Jimei can bring personal belongings and travel together. Seeing that a serious person had finally arrived, Pan Shuer quickly replied. The system gave me a 100 square meter warehouse, but I am not allowed to carry live animals. That's easy to handle. This netizen named Song Mingyuan replied instantly. Although the northern Song dynasty had a developed economy, due to the loss of Xiangyun, the most scarce were war horses and cavalry. If Jimei can start from this aspect, not to mention silver, even becoming a female general like Liang Hongyu is impossible. Someone immediately commented below, "Are you crazy? Didn't you see the question leader saying that her warehouse can't carry live animals? Even if I can bring it, how many horses can I bring in just 100 square meters? Hee, lack of culture, it's really scary." The main source of horses in the Song dynasty was trade with the Khitans and Western Xia, replied the famous Song lady, as the main trading commodity for placing goods, it is the most scarce tea resource among the barbarians. If Jimei brings more tea varieties and studies the main techniques of tea picking and making, it can achieve large-scale production in 2 seasons a year. Even if I cross into Pan Jinlian, what happens? Don't mention Wusong. When Song Jiang comes, you must respectfully call out Pan Jie. Pan Shuer's eyes lit up, and Xiangyun was really full of talented people. Immediately, she opened her phone and recorded the mandatory option of tea planting. Not long after, someone suggested again. Whether in ancient times or modern times, it has always been women's money, it's best to earn it. Since the protagonist traveled through time to become Pan Jinlian, their main activity area is near Bianjing. The wealthy family's daughters and wives in Bianjing love to shop in groups. If the questioner brings some modern cosmetics and kills those Song dynasty rouge powder in no time. Pan Shuer suddenly realized, yes. The Song dynasty rouge that I long for in my heart is all made up of modern TV dramas. Think carefully. How could the poor and backward craftsmanship at that time be comparable to Lancôme and Chanel today? Moreover, this thing is compact and agile, taking up no space at all. 100 square meter warehouse, taking out a quarter is enough to make a windfall for oneself. Pan Shuer immediately recorded the cosmetics as well. And he thought, if possible, he should try to study the manufacturing process of perfume and lipstick. Sustainable development is the way to wealth. The question is about a weak woman. Even if she has money, it's useless in those chaotic times, isn't it? A male netizen commented. I think finding a reliable and good man is the most important thing. As soon as these words were spoken, they were immediately attacked by a large group of female netizens. I just can men also be trusted? In ancient times, in a patriarchal society, there were 3 wives and 4 concubines, and women had no status at all. Are you afraid that Jimei would go there and live too well? Jimei, lightning protection has been lifted, blacklist procurement is now underway. Instead of relying on men, it's better to improve oneself as much as possible. Yes, Jimei said there's still 1 month left. Hurry up and train. Do Jimei have a way to get firearms and gunpowder? If we can get it, we can definitely walk horizontally on the streets of northern Song. When I see Wu Song, I'll tell him directly, Uncle, the times have changed. Pan Shuer was a bit confused about crying and laughing, but the more she said it, the more outrageous it became. Guns and gunpowder, these things are something that I, as a female clerk in the society, can handle. Why not? Pan Shuer suddenly thought of someone, with a slight smile on her lips. How did you forget that guy? Over the years, you've eaten so many meals for me. It's time for you to repay me. Pan Shuer spent the whole day lying in bed holding her phone and actively adopting various suggestions from netizens. Whether serious or not. As long as Pan Shuer finds it helpful, she can directly write it down in the memo. Anyway, there is still 1 month left before I travel, and I still have plenty of time. There are still many things that can be done. As we chatted, the number of people replying decreased, leaving only scattered likes. Pan Shuer looked at the time and realized that it was already 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. Unconsciously, I chatted all day. Zhao's Apple 13, which was just purchased with a loan, is hot to the touch. Forget it, let's talk about it tomorrow. Pan Shuer yawned and rubbed her sore eyes. The countdown in my mind has reached 29 days, 4 hours, 17 minutes, and 21 seconds. Pan Jinlian, you are such a pitiful woman, but due to one mistake, you have been nailed to the pillar of shame in history, becoming synonymous with water and water. Lying in bed, looking at the ceiling, Pan Shuer gradually made up her mind. Revive your life, I must make you live with dignity and face. Live as an unprecedented and unparalleled female powerhouse, and become the only shining star in the humiliating and dark era of the Northern Song dynasty. Since she started working, Pan Shuer has slept for less than 6 hours every day. Today is the first time she hasn't set an alarm. I slept for a full 12 hours before waking up from my dream in the afternoon. At this moment, Pan Shuer had a strange dream. In the 12th lunar month, heavy snow falls and the streets are cold and empty. She sat alone outside the mansion, wearing a thin single garment. Naked feet, frozen red, trembling all over. However, no matter how much she knocked on the mansion door, there was no response at all. After knocking impatiently, a servant pushed the door open and walked out. Bitch, let you go. You're not going yet, are you? The servant held the long stick that chased wild dogs in his hand and hit her hard. Until she was beaten until she was covered in bruises and no longer had the strength to knock on the door, she slammed it shut again. Woo-woo. Why treat me like this? Chapter 3. Mother quits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Pan Shuer was completely unaware of the causes and consequences. It's even unclear why she was kicked out of the mansion. But at this moment, her heart was filled with a strong sadness and despair. As if predicting that she would die a miserable death in the snow and her fate would come to an end. Just as Pan Shuer was sobbing, she curled up in the snow, closing her eyes and waiting to die. Behind me, suddenly came a burst of silly laughter. Madam, I'm here to pick you up. Pan Shuer was slightly stunned, turned around and fixed her gaze, almost jumping up. Coming behind her was a strange middle-aged man. The man has a short stature, dark skin, sesame eyes, and a mouth full of big yellow teeth. It's not an exaggeration to say that even standing in the courtyard with this dignified appearance can startle the dog. Saying he is a person is purely because he can walk upright. You. Don't come over. Pan Shui's face was full of fear and she said, I don't know you. He, madam, what are you talking about? The man grinned and wiped his nose with his fingers. Mr. Zhang has betrothed you to me, and from now on, we will be husband and wife. Come on, it's getting late. Come home with me and make pancakes. As he spoke, the man staggered forward and reached out his dirty hand to grab Pan Shui's shoulder. Pan Shui was struggling desperately to resist when several servants suddenly rushed out of the mansion. Directly tied her up 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times, and placed her on the man's shoulder. You, take this bitch with you, how far it is, how far it is. Okay. Thank you all, gentlemen. The man smiled happily, carrying Pan Shui and leaving happily. No matter how Pan Shui screams and cries, no one pays attention. I don't want to. I don't want to go with you. Accompanied by a cry of surprise, Pan Shui woke up from her sleep. She touched the cold sweat on her forehead, looked at the familiar room around her, and let out a long breath with lingering fear. No way. I can't let this kind of thing happen. This month is my last chance to change my destiny. After waking up, Pan Shui had no time to brush her teeth and wash her face. Instead, she immediately opened Little Red Book. The post I accidentally posted yesterday was actually trending on the homepage. In just a short sleep, there were many more comments. Pan Shui carefully screened and found that she really had a lot of good work to do. I suggest Jimei borrow a few medical books and bring back more Western medicine. According to historical records, Emperor Huizong of Song, Zhao Ji, was obsessed with women and had his body hollowed out at a young age. In order to nourish the young and kidney, many valuable deer antler ginseng were wasted. At that time, Jimei will enter the palace as a doctor and directly take a pill of 6 flavored Rehmannia pills, offering it to him. Will he not be directly appointed as an imperial physician? Some comments are even more exciting. As is well known, Emperor Huizong of the Song dynasty had a great love for antiques, especially for stone statues and rockeries. In order to escort Hua Shigang, dozens of envoys were mobilized and a blue-faced beast named Yang Ji was forced out. If Jimei had learned modern stone carving techniques, wouldn't she have directly taken down the emperor? Be an imperial concubine or something, every minute, hold a handful. Pan Shui will record these valuable comments one by one. Among them, some cultural figures with obvious similarities should pay attention first, and strive for mutual understanding in the future. Let's chat slowly through private messages. After struggling for an hour, she lazily got out of bed. Today, there is a lot to do. After changing her clothes, Pan Shui hurried out. On the way, she used her phone to check the balance of several bank cards under her own name. Her salary, although relatively meager, is not a big expense. Over the years, I have saved around 100,000 yuan in savings. Pan Shui decided to use all this money for the preparation of the last month. Anyway, after crossing the past, modern coins are worthless. It's better to exchange something valuable to make your life better after traveling. Pan Shui stopped a car and headed straight to the office where she was going to work. In the office, Manager Chen, the boss, is eating fruit while focusing on watching the drama. Pan Shui, do you still know how to come? Glancing at Pan Shui, Manager Chen couldn't help but say, I haven't been able to find your person for a whole day. It's almost time to finish work before I run over. Are you the one who owns this company? This month's bonus is gone. Please work overtime until 12 o'clock today. If you can't finish your work, don't think about it. I'll go get you. Pan Shui reached out and slapped Manager Chen hard. Manager Chen was stunned and cursed loudly, Pan Shui, are you crazy? Dare to fight me, believe it or not, I'll tell you to get out of here and leave. Pan Shui sneered and said, oh, I've been tired of this terrible job for a long time. I was planning to resign with you today and settle my salary with you. However, seeing your face as a dead family member, I really can't control it. Even if it's not for the salary, I have to deal with you today." As she spoke, Pan Shuer immediately pounced on her. Grasping Manager Chen's half-length hair, he rounded his palm and slapped him in the face with a crackling sound. Their company is extremely exploitative, except for employees whose workstations are monitored. The offices of middle and senior leaders are not monitored. Leaders occasionally go to check the surveillance footage to supervise employees slacking off and being late or leaving early. Pan Shuer is not afraid that her boss will be beaten by her, so she goes out to sue her. As long as she bites to death and it's not her fault, no one has evidence to sue her. When she heard someone approaching outside her boss's office, she stopped. The big commotion caused by her instantly attracted all the other employees. Seeing the scene in the office, everyone was stunned. "Pan Jie. Is this crazy? I didn't come to work all day yesterday, and today I've been pigeoning for most of the day. And now that I just arrived, I just beat up Manager Chen directly. So, should we call the police? Give me a fart. This woman is constantly changing her ways, withholding our salary. Are you still looking for her at the book garden www.zhaoxuan.com? Pan Jie, you're doing well. Beat her up." Manager Chen couldn't resist the beating and screamed repeatedly, "This woman is crazy, come here quickly. You useless people don't know how to help, don't you even call the police. Is this crazy woman allowed to hit me?" However, no matter how loudly she shouted, all the employees pretended to be deaf and remained indifferent. "Don't falsely accuse anyone. I didn't hit Manager Chen." Saying I hit Manager Chen, do you need to provide evidence? Especially Manager Chen, you can't falsely accuse me. Do you have evidence to prove that I hit you? Pan Shuer, who had booked the office without surveillance, swaggered out of the office. Surrounded by colleagues, they all stared blankly as she left and headed towards the company exit. Who likes to stay in this broken company? Anyway, I won't stay anymore. As the company was about to export, Pan Shuer carried her figure behind her back and said something to them. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone immediately boiled. If Sister Pan doesn't do it, we won't do it either. Yes, stop working and leave. What about finance? Hurry up and settle my salary for me. Money is nothing, I won't do it either. It was also Chen Hong who relied on herself as the boss's younger sister and often used power to deceive others, causing employees to accumulate too much resentment. There was no need for Pan Shuer to incite them, so they dispersed without even asking for a salary. After almost an hour, the boss Chen Dong arrived upon hearing the news. Seeing the chaos and emptiness within the company, the whole person was in chaos. I remember, does my company have employees? It's getting stronger, go back and sleep for a while. Chapter 4. Exercise Kung Fu and Alcohol Tolerance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, leaving the company, Pan Shuer stopped a girl in the dense crowd. Xiaoya, I have something to talk to you about. The girl has a tall and slender figure, fair skin, and delicate facial features. When it comes to appearance and temperament, she is much stronger than Pan Shuer. Her name is Suya, and she works as an accountant in the company. She joined at the same time as Pan Shuer. So the relationship between them has always been very good, and they can be regarded as good sisters. Although Suya is not short of money, she has a disadvantage, which is that she tends to take advantage of small advantages. Usually when ordering takeout or buying a cup of milk tea, I have to rub against Pan Shuer. Pan Shuer doesn't like socializing and has only one friend, so she hasn't been arguing with her. I didn't expect that today, I really seized an opportunity to have a short mouth. Shuer, what's wrong? Suya smiled and asked, have you found a new company and plan to take me to the interview? No. I just wanted to ask for your help. Besides, I no longer have the need to look for a job. Pan Shuer pondered for a moment and truthfully told Suya about her upcoming trip to the Song dynasty in a month. Suya listened for a moment, couldn't help but reach out and touch Pan Shuer's head. I don't have a fever. Shuer, have you been under too much work pressure lately and suffering from delusions? I have no illness at all. Pan Shuer couldn't help but say, it's just that. If nothing unexpected happens, you should never see me again in a month. Looking at Pan Shuer's serious appearance, Suya finally couldn't help but chuckle. Ha ha ha. Shuer, how did you become so humorous? Crossing the Song dynasty and becoming Pan Jinlian. Then I'll travel with you and become a high-ranking official from Ximen, living in a miserable state with you, okay? Pan Shuer's pretty face turned black and she couldn't help but say, I'm not joking with you. Okay. Okay. I believe it. Suya forced a smile and said, you tell me. What can I do for you? I remember your boyfriend was a special forces soldier who only retired a few years ago, right? Pan Shuer said seriously, take me to meet him once. I want to hire him as my instructor. Instructor. Suya's head was full of question marks. This woman can't really sleep, has her brain gone crazy? However, seeing Pan Shuer so serious and persistent, there was no intention of joking at all. She reluctantly made a phone call and arranged to meet her boyfriend at a cafe. Suya's boyfriend's name is Chen Fei, and he once worked as a mountain special forces soldier in the team. Seeing his tall and curvaceous figure, as well as his dark and shiny skin, Pan Shuer secretly shuddered in her heart. Finding such a boyfriend is also thanks to Xiaoya's thin arms and legs, which can withstand it. Do you have anything to do with me? Chen Fei sat next to Suya and asked with a smile. It's not me who invited you, it's my best friend who invited you. Suya said, let me introduce you. This is my good friend Pan Shuer. Shuer, my boyfriend, Chen Fei. Hello. Pan Shuer nodded and said seriously, teach me how to fight. Puff. Chen Fei just drank the coffee in his mouth and sprayed it out. His face was full of shock and he said, what are you saying? I'm a veteran, not a thug. How can I teach you this? Besides, as a girl from every family, what are you learning to fight? Rogue. I will also try to get in touch with it. Pan Shuer pondered for a moment, nodded, and said lightly, it's not worth teaching. I can pay you 1 month's instructor's salary at the highest market price. Your job is to teach me how to shoot, use knives, fight bare-handed, and various knowledge and skills for wilderness survival. Chen Fei was stunned and instinctively looked at his girlfriend Suya beside him. Suya quietly pointed at Pan Shuer and then at her own head, shaking her head helplessly. That expression seems to be saying, my best friend's brain is broken, you just follow her. Well. There's no problem teaching you. Chen Fei chuckled and said, but the necessary venues and facilities. I'll go find these, you don't need to worry. Pan Shuer took out a bank card and placed it on the table. There are 20,000 yuan in this card and 6 zeros in the password, which can be considered as the salary I paid you in advance. Tomorrow evening, I will contact Xiaoya and let's start the first lesson directly. After speaking, Pan Shuer took out another banknote, paid for her coffee, and walked away gracefully and elegantly. The remaining two, Suya and Chen Fei, looked at each other in confusion. After returning home, Pan Shuer couldn't wait to charge her phone and open Little Red Book. After visiting the company, she added thousands of comments under her topic. Undoubtedly on the hot list, it has indeed exploded in popularity. Jimei, can you teach me how to travel through time? I want to travel to the Tang dynasty and become Empress Wu Zetian, but if I can't, I can become an empress or a noble concubine. Add 1 upstairs, I want to travel to the Ming dynasty and marry Zhu Zhanji. Draw your sword, Jimei. Zhu Zhanji is mine. Looking at these devoid comments, Pan Shuer had to scroll down one by one. Scratching along, my eyes finally lit up and I stopped. Since Jimei has traveled to Zhang's mansion, the first thing she must consider is how to protect herself. I suggest scrolling through Empresses in the Palace or reading Sun Tzu's Art of War. It may be useful to search for books at www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Someone is refuting below. A place like Zhang's mansion has no value for scheming, okay. It's better to escape as soon as possible and go to a bigger world in order to achieve great success. Please, in that era, can a woman escape and have a way of survival? In times of chaos, there are only two ways to survive. Either become a soldier or a bandit. It's great to be a soldier. How majestic the famous Yangmen female general is. Is it possible that the female general of Yangmen must be from the Yang family? If Jimei goes, she can't even be the fire girl Yang Paifeng. My surname is Pan. Hahaha, isn't that exactly the archenemy of the Yang family general, the big villain Pan Renmei? Pan Shuer couldn't help but laugh. Contemporary netizens are really humorous. So, can we only become bandits? Simply put, it's about building a relationship with Liangshan heroes, right? Suggest Jimei to exercise her alcohol tolerance and strive to become the great song wine god directly. When the time comes, I really can't get by anymore. Being a granddaughter and opening a steamed bun shop is also good. Although this suggestion is very nonsensical, Pan Shuer still has two bright eyes. Immediately open the memo and record Empresses in the Palace, Sun Tzu's Art of War, and exercise alcohol tolerance. Alcohol tolerance was absolutely necessary in that era. Whether you want to go to Liangshan or not, having a good tolerance for alcohol is essential. Heroes like Wu Song and Lu Zhishan, as long as you are upright and can drink a little more, you can cut into your own pockets. Maybe even Master Lu would say that classic line to himself. Unfortunately, you are a daughter. Otherwise, the Saga family would have sworn brothers with you. Chapter 5. Enthusiastic citizen Mr. Zhao and talented girl Su Xiangyun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Besides, silver is also very important. A netizen named Enthusiastic Citizen Mr. Zhao commented. The Song dynasty's economy was prosperous and developed, and Bianjing was the financial center of the entire Song dynasty. If the questioner is well prepared, it is easy to become the richest person in the Song dynasty. Upon seeing this, Pan Shuer's heart moved and she quickly replied. May I ask what preparations should be made? Kind-hearted citizen Mr. Zhao replied immediately. Since you want to make money, you definitely can't do without seeking benefits in terms of food, clothing, and expenses. First of all, what was the most scarce thing in ancient times? Others commented one after another, food. No, the Song dynasty had so many land of fish and rice that there was no shortage of food. Meat. Although beef was not allowed in the Song dynasty, it was not difficult for ordinary people to have a meal of meat. Vegetables. That's even worse. Everyone expressed their opinions, but they were all denied by others. After pondering for a moment, Pan Shuer tentatively replied, Is it salt? Smart. The enthusiastic citizen Mr. Zhao gave a thumbs-up expression. More precisely, it's all seasonings such as oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, sugar, etc. The ancient craft and technology were backward, and no matter how prosperous and developed the economy was, seasoning would always be a scarce commodity. Even though they were as wealthy as the Song dynasty, salt and sugar were exclusive to aristocratic and wealthy families. Like ordinary people, they can only use salt cloth and vinegar cloth at most. If the questioner delves into the salt-making process, especially the sea salt that was not yet popularized in ancient times, and then gets along well with the officials who specialize in salt and iron, and obtains permission from the government to sell salt, then they will definitely reap huge profits. Pan Shuer was overjoyed and didn't expect that there were really talented people on Xiaohongshu. The words of this enthusiastic citizen, Mr. Zhao, made her feel enlightened. Pan Jinlian's family was poor and destitute, so she was treated as a maid from a young age and sent around. It was precisely because of poverty that she had no room for resistance, so she was given to Wu Daolong by Zhang Dahu. If one can do business smoothly, they have hundreds of times more money than the Zhang family. At that time, it's her turn to give Zhang Dahu to sell pancakes to Wu Daolong. Thank you for your guidance, I understand now. Pan Shuer wanted to continue questioning, but the other party said they had something to do. Helpless, Pan Shuer had to temporarily add a follow to enthusiastic citizen Mr. Zhao, and after the interaction, she would send more private messages and slowly seek advice. Feeling a bit hungry, she ordered takeout. I didn't hesitate to order all the expensive delicacies I used to be reluctant to eat. Anyway, 1 month later, I will be leaving this boring world forever. Make sure to spend all the money before that, leaving no regrets. Having dinner, Pan Shuer searched online for training venues and equipment. There is an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs, with a cheap rent of only 300 yuan per month. Well. Anyway, I'm just going to learn self-defense skills, not just talking about romance. It's quite suitable, just place the order directly. Even if you are a spendthrift, you still have to put your money on the cutting edge. After dinner, Pan Shuer opened Xiaohongshu again and continued to browse through her posts. A comment from a netizen named Talented Girl Su Xiangyun quickly caught her attention. If Jimei had traveled through time to become Pan Jinlian, she would have lived in the same era as the female poet Li Qingzhao. If Jimei had memorized all the poems after the Northern Song dynasty in advance, perhaps she could have competed with Li Qingzhao to see who was the most talented woman in the world. Pan Shuer's heart twitched, yes. During the Northern Song dynasty, although not as talented as the prosperous Tang dynasty, many renowned talents emerged. Yan Shu, Song Qi, Mei Yaochen, Ouyang Xiu. There is also a famous foodie. Ah no, great poet, Su Dongpa. Pan Shuer couldn't help but start to daydream. At a grand poetry gathering, I chatted confidently and won the applause of all the talented scholars in the hall. The emperor, who disguised himself and hid in a corner, looked at him with a passionate light in his eyes. Pooh, pooh. Pan Shuer suddenly thought of something and shook her head in disgust. Look at my brain, how could I forget that the emperor during Pan Jinlian's reign was Zhao Ji, Emperor Huizong of Song. I don't want to be targeted by this despicable and incompetent Duke of Hund. When Jingkong is ashamed, I will be kidnapped by the Jin army's Tartars as spoils of war. Well, although fishing for the emperor may not be of much interest, it is definitely necessary to memorize more poems and songs. Immediately, Pan Shuer excitedly started talking to the talented woman Su Xiangyun. Jimei's proposal is great. However, most famous poems and phrases were written before the Tang and Song dynasties. Are there any particularly famous poets after the Northern Song dynasty? Of course there is. In an instant, talented woman Su Xiangyun entered her professional field and began to popularize knowledge for Pan Shuer. During the Southern Song dynasty alone, there were 4 famous poets of the Southern Song dynasty: Lu Yu, Yang Wanli, Fan Qingda, and Yu Mao. During the Yuan dynasty, there was Zhang Yanghao, who was saddened by the Qin and Han dynasty's scriptures. Every palace was filled with earth. In the Ming dynasty, some people laughed at me for being too crazy, and I laughed at Tang Bohu, who others couldn't see through. In the Qing dynasty, if one's life was just like seeing it for the first time, why bother to visit the Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. The autumn wind mourns the painting fan's Nailan Xingda. The magnificent history of China is countless, and there are countless literati and calligraphers. The things that can be memorized by Jimei cannot be counted at all. Including Pan Shuer, a group of netizens below immediately admired the talented woman Su Xiangyun. Wow, truly a talented woman, she is indeed a cultured person. Tang Bohu was originally from the Ming dynasty. I always thought he was from the Tang dynasty. Some people also suggest, what other poems does the questioner memorize? Isn't it easier to become famous by writing one of the 4 great classical novels? But his suggestion was immediately ridiculed by a large group of people. Dude, are you okay? Although the 2 books, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Journey to the West, were written during the Ming dynasty, there were already countless reviews and operas during the Song dynasty. So, what about water margin? What? Water margin. Are you going to write water margin? Ha ha ha. I'm laughing to death. Come. Brother, tell me, do you want to be chopped to death by the emperor? Or do you want to be chopped to death by Song Jiang, who was just about to rebel and was predicted by you in advance? Pan Shuer had no intention of reading these biased comments and was determined to ask the talented woman Su Xiangyun for more advice. But the talented woman Su Xiangyun did not reply to her again. She should have been busy with something. Helpless, Pan Shuer had no choice but to add another following to the talented woman Su Xiangyun, hoping that after interacting with her later, she could send a private message and give herself more guidance. As it was getting late, Pan Shuer turned off her phone and went to sleep. Lying in bed, gazing at the bright moon outside the window, she couldn't help but start daydreaming about her wonderful life after crossing the northern Song dynasty. 28 days, 2 hours, 45 minutes, 1 second. Chapter 6. Retro Edition Flame Vegetable Sugar Making Method. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. The next morning, Pan Shuer woke up early and headed straight to the library. Hey, Sister Shuer. Library Administrator Yi Qingqing, somewhat surprised, said, how could you come to read a book? It's rare. Yi Qingqing is Pan Shuer's college classmate and has been very close for the past 4 years. Although the two went their separate ways after graduation, they have not lost contact over the years. Qingqing, long time no see. Pan Shuer smiled lightly and said, come and borrow a few books. No problem, which book should I borrow? Here, can you help me find it? Pan Shuer directly took out a long list from her bag. This is the book list she summarized last night, taking into account the opinions of most netizens. So much. Yi Qingqing's face was full of surprise as she took the book and read it alone, her expression becoming somewhat strange. The mining and drying of sea salt. The retro version of the flame vegetable sugar making method. How to become the god of wine within a month. The selected works of Ming and Qin poetry. These books are not only obscure and peculiar, but also not adjacent to each other. Yi Qingqing's expression was extremely strange, and she looked up and down at Pan Shuer several times. Sister Shuer, are you okay? Of course it's okay. Pan Shuer shrugged and smiled, you are the largest library in Haishur. Do you have all these books? Yes, there is, it's just. Yi Qingqing asked cautiously, Sister Shuer, what are you borrowing these strange books for? It's nothing, I just want to learn. Pan Shuer smiled faintly and said, by the way, I will be traveling in a month. Oh, I thought it was something, it turned out to be a month. Yi Qingqing responded casually and suddenly reacted, almost jumping half a meter high. What is it? Time travel. The library is an extremely quiet place, and her exclamation of surprise instantly caught the attention of many people. Yi Qingqing quickly nodded and apologized, suppressing her fear and whispering, Sister Shuer, are you sick? Rolling calf, you're sick. Pan Shuer laughed and cursed, go find me a book quickly. Find any book for me first, I'll wait while I read it. Yi Qingqing nodded and picked out a book from the bookshelf, handing it to Pan Shuer. Pan Shuer saw that it was the retro version of the flame vegetable sugar making method. Immediately, she brought the book to a remote and uninhabited corner, flipping through it on her own. The modern sugar refining process is already very mature. The price is not too expensive either, it's less than 10 yuan per bag, and everyone can afford it. But in ancient times, making sugar was not an easy task. To refine flame vegetables, also known as sugar beets, into refined sugar, it requires a very cumbersome process. Juice extraction, purification, evaporation, crystallization, honey separation, drying among them. Extracting juice requires cutting the beets into small pieces in advance and tirelessly crushing them with a stone mill. To be pure, it is necessary to remove all impurities after crushing, leaving only the purest vegetable juice. The steps of evaporation and crystallization require special equipment. It is almost impossible to make these instruments during the Northern Song dynasty. However, if it is only refined into crude sugar, many steps can be omitted. In this era where no one can afford sugar, crude sugar is also a hot and good thing. Pan Shuer was completely focused and mesmerized by the sight. As she watched, she had already imagined in her mind the appearance of sweating like rain and refining sugar after crossing over. The purpose of writing this book was originally to popularize the ancient method of refining sugar to people, feel that sugar is not easy to come by, and cherish it. I'm afraid even the author didn't expect that their work would one day be used as a reference book for careful reading. Pan Shuer flipped through half of the book and only then did Yi Qingqing find the crystalline part. So much. Looking at dozens of books piled up like a small mountain, Pan Shuer suddenly felt a bit dumbfounded. That's right. Sister Shuer, they all picked according to your book list. Yi Qingqing said helplessly, I really don't understand what kind of stimulation you have received. You have to borrow so many messy books. I just jot down whatever comes to my mind, and I didn't expect there to be so much. Pan Shuer pressed her temples and suddenly felt a headache. As a college student, her reading speed is not slow. However, it is impossible to read all of these within a month and memorize the general content. Moreover, during this precious time, she still needs to allocate some time for practicing martial arts and preparing things. If all the books are taken away, it may take up too much space suddenly. Pan Shuer had a bold idea, with a smile on her lips. Qingqing, how much does it cost per month for you to work here? Yi Qingqing was a bit confused when asked and replied, 3,000 yuan. Pan Shuer smiled mysteriously and said, I'll pay you 3 months' salary. Can you take 1 month off and help me? Okay. Yi Qingqing was confused and said, however, Sister Shuer, what do you need me to do? Help me read all these books, then summarize and streamline the content you think is most useful, and copy it onto paper. Pan Shuer instructed, each book can only be copied from a maximum of 10 sheets of paper, and should not take up too much space. Find the book garden at www.zhaoxuyuan.com. For books like Selected Poems from the Ming and Qing dynasties, just pick out the 30 most famous ones and make sure they are catchy. Listening to Pan Shuer's request, Yi Qingqing only had one idea in her heart. Shuer is under too much work pressure and has gone crazy. Otherwise, how could she have let herself do such a boring thing? Qingqing, actually It's nothing, actually, that's settled. Pan Shuer opened her phone and directly transferred 9,000 yuan to Yi Qingqing. Then, carrying the retro version of the flame vegetable sugar making method, he left without looking back. Sister Shuer, really, asking someone for help doesn't make it clear. Yi Qingqing complained on her lips, but her body honestly accepted the transfer of 9,000 yuan. Immediately, he took out his phone and silently dialed the superior's number. Hello, Captain Sunday. I would like to take a month off. Leaving the library, Pan Shuer went to retrieve various equipment purchased online yesterday. Immediately, I sent Suya the address and took a taxi to the dilapidated warehouse I rented. When she arrived, Suya and Chen Fei were already waiting there in advance. Shuer, what kind of haunted venue are you looking for? Suya drove away the flies and said somewhat disdainfully, although it's just learning self-defense, it's a bit too. That's perfect. Chen Fei's eyes lit up and he clenched his fists excitedly. When I first enlisted, I was training in such a place. Once, I secretly smoked and was punished by the instructor in the factory, walking upside down 50 times. Miss Schwer, the place you rented is simply perfect. Chapter 7. I can't do it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Pan Schwer couldn't help but cry and laugh. I only found such a place for the sake of affordability. Unexpectedly, it happened to be rented into Chen Fei's heart. It's not too late, let's start practicing now. No problem. Chen Fei was already prepared and smiled calmly. Miss Schwer, what's your situation? Xiaoya has also told me. Considering that you don't have the foundation in combat, it's best to start from the basics, so we. How can I have this time, starting from basic practice? Pan Schwer interrupted Chen Fei directly and impatiently waved her hand. I have already figured out what to practice, you don't need to calculate. You just need to be responsible for teaching me how to use and practice, that's enough. Chen Fei was slightly stunned. Why didn't this woman play according to the routine? The next second, seeing what Pan Schwer had taken out of the sack, he was instantly dumbfounded. Electric baton, swing stick, dagger, triangular army spike, a variety of shocking weapons were calmly taken out by Pan Schwer and arranged in front of her. Rao, who was a retired Special Forces soldier from Qinfeitong, was also shocked and made a plea for help to his girlfriend. Schwer. You're talking about a girl from every family. What are you doing practicing these things for? Suya quickly walked forward and sneered, in my opinion, just exercise your body and learn a few female self-defense techniques. That's enough. I said, in a month, I will leave this world forever. Pan Schwer said calmly, this month has been very precious. Do you think I have so much time to waste? But. Alright. Stop talking nonsense and start the same thing. It's getting late today, let's practice the most commonly used dagger first. Take a handful and I'll learn along. Immediately, Pan Schwer picked up a dagger and casually threw it to Chen Fei. I also picked up a handful and stared at him intently, ready to start learning one move at a time. Well. Okay. At this point, Chen Fei could only nod helplessly. Immediately holding the handle of the knife, holding one's breath and concentrating, he began to dance his best Hegeless fighting technique. Waving and waving, Chen Fei's remaining light glanced at Pan Schwer beside him. He was shocked to find that with only one move he had used before, Pan Schwer could appear perfectly. Regardless of the fluency of the technique or the proficiency in using the knife, they are no less than those veteran soldiers in the army. What is the situation? I practiced this fighting technique for over 2 months back then. How could this woman only practice once and then know how to do it? Can it be said that she has been exposed to this type of practice before? Not only Chen Fei, but also Pan Schwer herself felt extremely shocked. Originally, as a beginner with no foundation, she didn't have much confidence in learning martial arts. Just wanting to learn a little is a little bit, learn more moves, and when faced with danger, you can have more hope. However, after Chen Fei began to demonstrate, her limbs seemed uncontrollable. Directly replicate every action perfectly and deeply remember it in the brain. What is the situation? Can we say? Is it a special ability gifted to me by the system after awakening crossing? Pan Schwer was secretly shocked in her heart, while still maintaining synchronized movements with Chen Fei in her hands. After a long time, after completing this fighting method, Chen Fei flipped backwards and put the dagger in the scabbard. Pan Schwer also followed suit with her sword sheathed in her hand, her movements flowing smoothly in one go. Miss Schwer, you are hiding it deep and not revealing it. Chen Fei was shocked and said, since you have learned it before, why don't you tell me? Pan Shuer said cautiously, I haven't learned it. Impossible. Chen Fei chopped off the railway and said, when I just practiced, I was observing your movements all the time. This set of Hercules fighting techniques, although not complicated, may not even be noticed by veteran soldiers who have been in the military for many years in some minor details. But you performed so perfectly that not even a single flaw was revealed. This is enough to prove that not only have you practiced, but you are also a master who has practiced martial arts for many years. Pan Shuer suddenly couldn't help but laugh and cry, wondering why she had become a master. Ha! Shuer, when did you join the army? Suya also asked curiously, why don't I know anything? I haven't. Yes, I've been in before. Pan Shuer was too lazy to explain much and said calmly, I have basically learned this fighting method. Is there anything else you can teach me? Yes. Let me think. Upon learning that Pan Shuer had a strong foundation in martial arts, Chen Fei's concerns were greatly reduced. Immediately, show him all the family skills he learned in the army. As expected by Pan Shuer, the system indeed endowed itself with a certain ability. As long as it is a martial arts skill, she only needs to read it once to achieve unforgettable and perfect reproduction. Even in addition to imitation, the system will undergo automatic improvements. Many loopholes were not even discovered by Chen Fei himself. But she was able to correct it directly and said with a faint smile, Coach Chen, I'm flattered. Pan Shuer doesn't know, this system doesn't have any other functions yet. Zhao's but at least in this afternoon, she mastered the moves and routines of weapons such as electric batons and swing sticks with great skill. Chen Fei only demonstrated everything once, and was exhausted, panting heavily and sweating profusely. Reflecting Pan Shuer, her face remained unchanged and her anger did not surge, as if she had not done anything. Miss Shuer, you're so amazing. Chen Fei couldn't help but exclaim, as long as you learn all of my skills, even if you join the army in place, you can still become the best female soldier in the military camp. Okay, thank you very much. Pan Shuer nodded and suddenly thought of something, whispering, Chen Fei, can you get that? Which one? Chen Fei's face showed confusion. Pan Shuer did not answer, only raised her thumb and index finger and gestured. Gun. Chen Fei's face changed slightly and he shook his head in a panic, saying, I can't get this thing. Please help me think of a way out. Pan Shuer smiled lightly and said, as a weak woman, if I want to travel to an unfamiliar ancient place, I must have a trump card to protect my life. As for the money aspect, it's not a problem. Speaking, Pan Shuer took out a bank card from her bag and handed it to Chen Fei. The password for this card is 6 zeros, and there is 15,000 yuan stored inside. As long as you can help me get the things, the remaining money will be treated as running expenses and belong to you. Okay. After hesitating for a long time, Chen Fei gritted his teeth and nodded, but I have to. No matter where you go, as long as you get the things for me, the remaining money will be treated as hard-earned money. Chapter 8. The Grand Blueprint of Technology Leaders. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. After leaving this bank card, Pan Shuer turned around and left gracefully. Walking more vigorously than when I left yesterday. Chen Fei and Su Yamu stared blankly at her back. It wasn't until Pan Shuer left that Chen Fei weakly spoke up and asked. Xiaoya, where the hell are you? You met such a wealthy best friend. I'm not sure either. Suya shook her head and said, although Shuer is usually generous, she hasn't been so foolish. Is it difficult? Is it true that she will be crossing the river in a month? Upon returning home, Pan Shuer couldn't wait to open the little red book. Looking at thousands of unread comments, although a bit headache, I still flipped through them one by one. At present, I already have a rough direction, money making, and fame. Just need to summarize some experience at the end, and then we can start procurement. Pan Shuer searched for a long time and finally saw a comment that caught her eye. Is the question mainly about time travel or about time travel to the shameful era of the Northern Song dynasty? There's nothing else to say, just start promoting the country through science and education. This netizen's ID is Science Determines Destiny, and he is a well-known blogger on Xiaohongshu. Below his suggestions, there were indeed hundreds of comments. What do you mean? Making a gun. It's too difficult. That's right, the subject of the question is Pan Jinlian, is it okay to be a weak woman? Why don't you let her just rub the mushroom balls with her hands? Science determines fate, and it takes half a day to reply. Summer insects cannot speak ice. Other netizens were furious, but no matter how much they pursued questioning and yin-yang, they were too lazy to pay attention to them. It's a bit interesting. Pan Shuer's lips curved into a smile, and she immediately replied with a comment. Excuse me, big shot. How can we revitalize the country through science and education? I don't know if it's the privilege of the test taker, but the science expert quickly replied to her. It's very simple. For example, ancient people used flint, also known as flint, to start a fire. Flint fires are not only highly dangerous, but also have a low success rate, and are easily blown out by the wind. The fire sickles and fire folds used by wealthy households also have extremely high costs and low cost effectiveness. If the questioner passed chemistry in school, they should be familiar with materials such as potassium chlorate, potassium dichromate, iron oxide, sulfur, rosin, and manganese dioxide, right? Understand the extraction elements of these elements, travel back the next day, and directly start the match wholesale business. Those ancient people not only brought you a lot of silver, but also honored you as the god of fire. In the comments section of their own topic, comments from science experts are like a model, crushing others to the point of leaving nothing. Big Shot 666. I'm convinced of this brain teaser. Undoubtedly a blogger with 100,000 followers, there is indeed something. Since fire can make money, can light also be used to make money? Smart. Upon seeing a favorable comment, the science expert immediately responded instantly. Due to the difficulty of starting a fire, lighting at night is the biggest challenge. So, even though it was as bustling as the Great Song dynasty, after the Shunshur period, the streets were still deserted and there was almost no nightlife to talk about. It is definitely impossible to expect a nuclear power plant to come out in a short period of time. However, with limited time and energy, it should not be difficult to study the most primitive type of generator from the late 1980s. This type of generator has a simple structure and can generate electricity through various media such as hydropower, thermal power, wind power, etc. It is recommended that the questioner choose hydroelectric power generation, so that ancient waterways and water wheels can be directly utilized as resources. Tungsten wire halogens, xenon gas, and metal halogens can be infinitely extracted in the undeveloped environment of today's world. In less than 6 months, the questioner can have every household use electric lights to illuminate the entire Bianjing. After reading the comments of the tech guru who determines her fate, Pan Shuer was completely overturned and her emotions were not calmed for a long time. Yesterday, the guidance of enthusiastic citizen Mr. Zhao was also dry work. But it was just teaching her how to get rich, at most becoming the richest person in the Northern Song dynasty. Today, the words of the technology determines destiny guru directly elevate his topic to an infinite level. If he could really follow the path he had anticipated and popularize matches and electric lights to the Great Song dynasty. That's just Zhang, just Ximenking. Even if the Emperor of Song came, he may not dare to touch himself. Move me. Without their own creations, there will always be a day when matches are used up. Without operating the generator by oneself, the entire city's light bulbs cannot be maintained. The people can only go back to use flint and fire hammer, and after dark at night, they will obediently go home to sleep. Even if you are Bao Qing Tian, you have to make the common people spit to death one by one. The tech guru's criticism is simply a blow to dimensionality reduction. Fortunately, it's not you who has traveled through the past, otherwise, the Song dynasty would probably have directly entered the era of the internet. TSK. I have learned how to make a light bulb, brothers, wait for me for 15 minutes. It's been half an hour now, isn't the brother upstairs electrocuted? Pan Shuer suppressed her excitement and couldn't wait to continue sincere questioning at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Excuse me, tech guru, do you have any useful suggestions? There are many suggestions. With the technology and wisdom of modern people, becoming the god of those ancient people is simply an easy task. The tech guru sent a yawn expression. However, it's too late today and I need to go to bed. Let's talk tomorrow. Okay, good night, big shot. Pan Shuer sent a friend application to the tech guru, and when she saw the other person doing the same, she felt a burst of joy in her heart. You should know that by Song Zhang's side, there is also a wise and talented star named Wu Yong. He helped him complete a great undertaking, almost overturning the Song dynasty. With so many soldiers around me, coupled with an invincible god's perspective. In the chaotic and tumultuous end of the northern Song dynasty, it was not a problem to be a separatist warlord, was it? As it was getting late, Pan Shuer yawned, washed her face, brushed her teeth, and prepared to go to bed. Before going to bed, I finally rolled over and was attracted by another comment. The name of this netizen is, want to get rich, engage in civil engineering. It seems like he's a hardworking civil engineering guy. The brother upstairs who talks about technology speaks really well, but unfortunately I didn't understand a word. Since everyone is chatting so happily, let me share my opinion too. If the questioner wants to establish a foothold in the northern Song dynasty, I believe that grassroots construction is also essential. For example, ancient people had a great demand for water. They needed to fetch water from rivers or wells to clean rice, vegetables, laundry, and bathing. Isn't it cool if the questioner asked them all to use tap water? Chapter 9. The Almighty Civil Brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, huh? Yes. Pan Shuer's eyes lit up, it was a big deal. The civil engineering elder brother is indeed unique, and his perspective on problems is different from others. Someone immediately commented below. Brother, have you gone crazy moving bricks? That's tap water, not the water from the Yellow River. It's from heaven. I remember that our country did not fully popularize tap water until the Republic of China, right? If you want to popularize an ancient culture from over 1,000 years ago, I have a problem with my pure brain. Wanting to become rich and engage in civil engineering, is clearly not as aloof as science determines destiny, and immediately retaliated with dissatisfaction. If you have long hair and short knowledge, don't think others are the same. Do you think that tap water is a very advanced technology? As long as a suitable water pump is created, combined with a filtration system that can be produced with ancient technological conditions, and a sufficiently large freshwater lake is randomly selected. I can guarantee that as long as the questioner says, whoever wants to drink tap water, they can. Looking at the grand blueprint constructed by the civil engineering elder brother, Pan Shuer's heart was once again filled with excitement. Using technology to bring electricity and using civil engineering to bring water resources. In addition, the Song dynasty was already economically prosperous, and the people had a lot of silver in their pockets to earn. Pan Shuer couldn't help but fantasize about becoming the ghost of Wall Street in Song dynasty, taking care of 100 handsome men, fierce men, and little white faces. Brother, besides tap water, do you have any constructive suggestions? Pan Shuer immediately asked urgently, as long as it's a project that can make money. Ah no, it's a project that benefits the ancients, I'm interested. The civil engineering elder brother clearly did not expect that his careless words would actually make the subject of this hot topic reply in person, which was clearly somewhat flattering. After careful consideration of his wording, he said, in ancient times, there was a saying that the people prioritize food. Besides water, the questioner naturally needs to put in some effort in eating. The netizens below couldn't help but laugh and said, "Oh, in terms of cooking skills, do you also understand?" "No. I think it should be animal husbandry or planting." "Haha, my brother has a wide range of knowledge." Pan Shuer did not mock like others, but waited earnestly for the reply from the civil engineering elder brother. "For a long time, I want to get rich and work in civil engineering," said angrily, "Why are you laughing?" "I'm very serious, okay. If the questioner really has enough time, they can start with animal husbandry." In ancient times, animal husbandry was not developed because there was no mature feed available at that time. A piglet takes at least 1 or 2 years from birth to slaughter. If we use the current feed, we can raise a 300-pound fat pig in at least 2 months. This is the opportunity to get rich, as it only requires 10 times faster efficiency. Pan Shuer nodded in agreement and asked, "And then what?" "Then, of course, we should consider how to take action." The civil engineer replied immediately. "If the questioner sells these pigs to meat dealers, they can only make a small profit at most. However, if the questioner handles it themselves, the profit would be very terrifying." Some netizens asked in confusion, "Brother, what do you mean by this?" "Dealing with it on your own would at most save the butcher a layer of money, not enough effort." "Yeah. Looking at the subject's profile picture, it's a delicate little girl, or a beautiful woman with good looks. Do you think it's polite to let such a beautiful woman kill a pig?" Pan Shuer glanced at her 10-level beauty enhancement avatar and silently received praise from unfamiliar netizens. "You misunderstood, that's not what I meant." The civil engineer explained, "What I mean is that the pigs raised by the questioner do not necessarily have to be sold to the people." Everyone was momentarily confused. Not to the people, but to whom? Court, government, army. The civil engineer replied immediately. In ancient times, when fighting, the first thing to consider was the transportation and storage of military rations. Carrying too little food, the soldiers couldn't eat enough. Carrying too much food not only consumes a lot of transportation, but also has the possibility of mold. If we open up grain channels to transport grain, we will not only waste manpower and material resources, but also worry about the enemy looting grain. It was precisely because of the grain and forage that Marquis Zhuge Wuho was only able to leave the Qishan Mountains 6 times in vain, forging a lasting regret. When it comes to the position of Zhuge Wuho in people's hearts, even after more than 1800 years, it has not diminished in the slightest. After listening to what Brother Civil Engineering said, a group of people began to empathize. Alas, the Prime Minister is really pitiful. How many times have they been forced to withdraw their troops due to a shortage of food and supplies, despite their bravery and invincibility in battle? This civil engineering guy is still making sense. Seeing his recognition, the civil engineering elder brother immediately felt quite proud. So, it was only in ancient times that there was a saying that soldiers and horses did not move, and food and forage came first. If the questioner studies a little, they can produce and sell their own pigs, along with some grain, to make military rations that are easy to carry and store. Find the book Garden at www.zhaoxuyuan.com. Not only can you make a windfall, but the court will definitely be grateful to you. The question is about gaining both fame and fortune, and the merits are immeasurable. This big talk has already made Pan Shuer listen and feel a bit foolish. Are all the civil engineering guys so versatile now? The angle he had never imagined before was explained so clearly by him. Upon hearing this, Pan Shuer was already excited and completely devoid of drowsiness. If I really study the formula of ripening feed and combine it with modern hybrid rice technology, After crossing over to the Song dynasty, the future is truly limitless. In the common people, one can bring water and light to the people, and can be considered a saint-like existence. Not to mention the government, even Zhao Ji, Emperor Huizong of Song, could not easily touch his own hair. If one is caught, the widely used light bulbs and water systems will instantly become paralyzed. The people have just tasted the sweetness. If they lose water and electricity like this, they will have to rise up and launch a rebellion in Bianjing. In the army, he can bring delicious and convenient military provisions to the soldiers of the northern expedition, and his reputation is definitely well received. The Northern Song dynasty was known for its emphasis on literature over martial arts. At the beginning of the establishment of the country, there were Yang family generals and Hu family generals who were famous and prominent. In the middle period, there was a great hero named Di Qin guarding the border, which shook foreign countries. At the end of the year, there were very few famous generals, at most such as Gao Qiu and Tong Guan. But in the Southern Song dynasty, it was different. The famous ZTE for generals are not just for fun with you. Zhang Jun, Lu Guangshi, Han Shizhong. And my most admired hero, Yu Fei. Chapter 10. Becoming the Party A is so exciting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, if we look at the magnificent history, who can compare with the sadness of Zhuge Wuhou? Only Yu Wumu, who was determined to carry the Jin Northern expedition, died tragically at the hands of the treacherous ruler and prime minister. Although Yu Fei's death was mostly due to Zhao Gou's belief in Qin Hui's slander, 12 gold medals forced him back. However, abundant and nutritious military provisions can definitely make the already strong Yu family army even more invincible. Pan Shuer just imagines that scene and thinks it shouldn't be too beautiful. After the war between the two armies, the enemy was exhausted to set up a cooking stove and boil the tasteless bran congee. And the soldiers of the Yu family army sat directly in front of the formation. Take out the military rations you carry with you and soak them in water, chatting and laughing. However, each person carried a bowl of hot Longjiang pig's foot rice and enjoyed it in front of the enemy. That scene, TSK in ancient armies, as long as one eats well, it represents a rainbow of morale and a strong military spirit. On the first day, the Yu family army showed great power and, under the leadership of Yu Fei, defeated the Jin army. The next day, the enemy's morale was completely disrupted, and the Yu family army took the opportunity to take action, one city after another, to recapture the lost territory. On the third day, in the corner of the military camp, Jin Wushu, who was disguised and came to steal food, was discovered. If it is as expected, then it is estimated that the content of the book, The Legend of Yu Fei, will also need to be rewritten. A week later, Yu Fei broke through the Golden Wushu and the Yu family army recaptured the lost territory. In the second week, the entire Jin army was destroyed, and Yu Wumu regained control of the Song dynasty. Ten Zhou Mu the wolf smoke floats on Cybertron, and Yu Fei captures Wei Jintian alive. TSK the netizens below were all impressed by the wisdom of the civil engineering expert, and their attitude underwent a 180-degree transformation. Brother, I'll see you soon. It's a pity that it's the questioner who has traveled through the past, not you. If I were to travel through the past, wouldn't a song be invincible in the world? No. Even if you want to become an emperor, no one can stop you, brother. Pan Shueren suppressed his excitement and paid attention to the civil engineering elder brother. In the quiet of the night, lying alone in bed, she was so excited that she couldn't sleep for half a day. Now, I have collected all the necessary or potentially necessary suggestions. Starting tomorrow, we can start preparing for this item. However, there are still 27 days left until I travel by myself. It's definitely not easy to finish so much work in just 1 month. It's necessary to find a few helpers. After pondering for a long time, Pan Shuer suddenly thought of something and opened the following list on Zaya Hongshu. Looking at the newly added followers above in the past few days, a smile couldn't help but appear on the corner of my mouth. Isn't this ready-made? The next morning. 5 people from all over the world have just woken up from their sleep. As soon as I picked up my phone, I saw a late-night notification message. Miss Pan, who is about to travel, invites Song Dynasty Socialite to join the group chat. Miss Pan, who is about to travel, invites Mr. Zhao, a kind-hearted citizen, to join the group chat. Miss Pan, who is about to travel, invites talented woman Su Xiangyun to join the group chat. Miss Pan, who is about to travel, invites Science Determines Destiny to join the group chat. Miss Pan, who is about to travel, invited Want to Get Rich, Do Civil Engineering to join the group chat. Looking at the strangers in the member list and the empty dialog box, all 5 netizens were a bit confused. Where is this? Are you guys? Sorry, I added the wrong number. However, as they were about to leave the group, Pan Shuer immediately sent a panicked message. Brothers and sisters, don't retreat, listen to me. Ha! Isn't this Jimei the topic leader who traveled across Pan Jinlian's topic a month later? The Song Dynasty Socialite was the first to recognize her and asked with a smile, Jimei, how have you been preparing? The suggestions from various netizens have been collected quite well, and the next step is to implement them in practice. Pan Shuer replied, but with my own energy, I definitely can't complete so much work. I think you are the 5 most reliable among the vast number of netizens who reply to the topic. So please ask some brothers and sisters to help with the planning and practical matters. 5 people are all trapped in a brief screen. Holding the screen, Pan Shuer could imagine how speechless they were. For a long time, the civil engineering elder brother was the first to reply. Well, sisters, I just gave you an opinion last night. I still have my own work during the day and will have to go to work later. I really don't have the energy to help. In addition to Science Brother, who remained aloof as always, the other 3 also responded one after another. Yes. Sisters, we are usually very busy. Anyway, going through such a thing is just a joke. Why should sisters be so serious? Pan Shuer had long speculated about the attitudes of these people. She immediately took out 5,000 yuan and sent 5 big red envelopes to the group. The Song Mingyuan has received your red envelope. Mr. Zhao, a kind-hearted citizen, has received your red envelope. The talented woman Su Xiangyun has received your red envelope. Seeing the astonishing face value of the red envelope, the 5 of them fell silent again. For a long time, Brother Tu said weakly, Sisters, you. Are you serious? Of course. Pan Shuer replied without hesitation, anyway, after a month, I will be crossing the world, and the coins in this world will be of no use. Before crossing over, it is natural to find a book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com to squander all the savings of these years. If the 5 of you can help me complete the final task before departure, of course I won't treat everyone unfairly. As the saying goes, money can make ghosts grind. Even the wealthiest and most enthusiastic citizen among the 5, Mr. Zhao, has never been so stubborn and arrogant. After a moment, the 5 netizens instantly underwent a 180-degree change in attitude. Okay. The punctuation is wrong. This favor, I helped. Jimei, tell me. What should we do? Actually, it doesn't matter whether it's money or not. It's mainly to help sisters prepare before crossing. This fact is too cool. Seeing all 5 people agreeing, Pan Shuer's mouth curved beautifully. One person cannot form an army, and a solitary tree cannot form a forest. It's not worth it to buy so many talents with just a little money. The collection of these 5 people is equivalent to his 5 tiger generals, officially established. They don't need to do anything more, just put their suggestions into action. Pan Shuer can conclude that the days after her travels will definitely be comfortable and happy like a fairy. Since that's the case, everyone, Hurry up and take action. Sister Mingyuan, you are responsible for running around the perfume factory and luxury goods store near you. Summarize a specific plan for the cosmetics business you mentioned earlier. Boss Zhao, you are responsible for. When the company discussed cooperation in the past, most of the contracts and plans were written by Pan Shuer. I never expected that one day, I would be able to make various demands and conditions as a boss. Being the first party is so satisfying.